All right, guys. UFC 325 just wrapped up. Volkanovski versus Lopez 2, and Volkanovski just outclassed Lopez number 2 in the second fight. Now, first watching this video and watching this fight, watching this video, I was just thinking like, man, why did they even put this together? What's the whole point of this fight in the first place? And there's a fair argument to why people didn't even like it in the first place, why people didn't want to see it, and specifically, no one thinks Diego Lopez actually deserved it. Now, personally, I think we saw the Paddy Pimblett fight against Justin Gaethje, which was a very entertaining fight. Don't get me wrong, but obviously not very technical, not very high level fighting. Although I really did enjoy it, I'm not gonna lie. I thought it was a very fun fight compared to this fight card. 325. I thought 324 was way more exciting. It had more of that like big fight card feeling like we usually have for big fights like this. And this one, it just I don't know if it was just because it was back to back or what it was, but it just didn't feel like that exciting. And also like I don't know, just I think the fights themselves were like pretty um not as exciting. So with that being said, I'm basically going to go through just the main card itself. I'm not going to go through all the fights, but let's go ahead and get started with the first one. So Quinlan Salkill against Jamie Malarkey. When I first saw Quinlan Salkill go ahead and actually knock out Nasrat Asparas, I might have said that wrong. I thought that was an incredible knockout. I remember I was actually in the middle of talking to my friend in Canada, and damn, that one just made me sit down on the sofa and just look at it like screen, like what the fuck, that was insane. And yeah, 2 seconds earlier, I wasn't even looking at the TV screen, so I was like, thank God I'm paying attention. But that's that was an incredible fight as well. The one with Jamie Malarkey, where he had a competitive first round in the beginning until the rear naked choke, and he got taken down, reversed it, did the rear naked choke, and yeah, that was pretty awesome. That was pretty awesome. Jamie Malarkey, I'm not too familiar with him, apart from the fact that he looks pretty sad. I don't know why. That's the only thing I noticed about him. And I don't really know what his. Cause I don't know. Quinlan Salkill, I thought he was more of like a striker, but it looks like he can do pretty much everything. He looks really good. He looks really good for. And he got performance of the night as well. It's pretty awesome. So yeah, I think he looks pretty awesome in regards to the way he's fighting, and that's a 100K bonus right there. So whoops to him. Tai Tuivasa, Taliesin Teixeira. It's an interesting fight. Okay, I didn't throw out my five picks, but obviously I went Tai Tuivasa. I don't think anyone else here didn't want that, especially if you're a hardcore fan. Tai Tuivasa is a fan favorite, especially with his chewy and stuff like that he does at the end when he wins the fights, and the Nug Boys loving him and all that stuff. So yeah, definitely wanted him to win, especially Taliesin Teixeira. He just got knocked out right by like Derek Lewis, who just fought last week. So yeah, Taliesin Teixeira, I think he should have done more ground game, more grappling specifically with like Derek Lewis, but obviously I didn't know he even had that in his arsenal, although he is Brazilian, so makes sense. He reminds me of this fighter from the PFL. What's that guy who fought Francis Ngannou? Shit, I can't remember his name. But that big dude, that big head, like tall dude. Let me actually take a quick look at fights so I can find it. Okay, his name's Renan Ferreira, the Predator, basically. Yeah, so he reminds me of him for some reason. It'd be kind of cool to see if they fought against each other because they're Brazilian as well, and they're both tall as hell. Yeah, and Tai Tuivasa is like his sixth loss in a row, so I don't know where he goes from here. I don't know if he's. I mean, I don't know how many fights he's got left on his contract, but it's gonna be interesting to see what happens. I mean, it's almost like the heavyweight Tony Ferguson at this point. Although Tony Ferguson was way more accomplished and way more just better in terms of like his skill sets and stuff like that. Although Tai Tuivasa did have like some deadly leg kicks, like lower leg kicks, and we didn't see any of those from him in this particular fight. I don't know. In this fight, he looked pretty. I don't know. He just looked pretty tired to me, but I was just rooting for him the entire time, getting really upset every time he'd get taken down and then get kept down, especially in the second round. I was just like, "Come on, dude, get back up, get back up, get back up," and then he wasn't getting up, and I was kind of like waiting for him to just get up and knock him the fuck out. And Teixeira, towards the end, that last round, I think he had him. I think Tuivasa had him. Tai Tuivasa had him, and I think the issue was I said Tuivasa. Okay, I think Taliesin Teixeira had him at the end, and I think it was just the fact that like fuck man, like Tuivasa just ran out of gas and ran out of steam, and I mean I still think he could have got him. Still think he could have got him, but I mean to be fair, Teixeira has a chin. But even with the Derek Lewis fight, like Teixeira didn't have it. And you know what's funny? Like I was thinking in my head, like Derek Lewis and Tai Tuivasa against Tai Tuivasa against Derek Lewis, he basically him like out with the elbow, put him against the fence. I thought, or the cage, sorry. I thought he could maybe take Teixeira against the cage, back him up basically, and then like elbow him and take him out. But yeah, that did not work out. I think he could have got him a few times. I mean, I don't know. There's one point where I think it was round two where he's like literally like standing there with his arms down, and then all of a sudden just goes. Teixeira just goes 1-2 and then does a takedown. I'm just like, what the fuck? Why is he? That's like a terrible guard he has in there. And apparently, I'm not too familiar with this part, but he had an issue with the weight cut, if I'm not mistaken. So pretty fascinating there, pretty strange that he had an issue with the weight cut specifically because he's cutting down only to 265 and most heavyweights are okay, but I think he got up to 330 they were saying, so that's going to be pretty interesting. Does he come back? I don't know. For Teixeira, I don't know who his next matchup could be. Let's have a look real quick. So Tyson Teixeira, let's see, he's in the heavyweight division. We'd have to look at the heavyweight division itself. Obviously, he fought Derek Lewis and lost. Even this one, Tafa versus Teixeira, I think he broke his nose in the Tafa fight, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, he did with the elbow. That was insane. That was, I think, his first fight in. Okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go back just because I don't want to get off topic here. But yeah, I'm just curious to see who he could fight. Okay, so I'm just pulling up the rankings on my phone right now, and it should come up pretty soon. And I don't know why it is taking a head load of time. Let's see. But yeah, I just want to see that part because I'm interested to see who the fighters are in the what the fudge. Okay, my phone's acting up a little bit, but let's see. Try one more time. If not, then what I'll do is I'll go ahead and pull it up on this rankings portion here. But I didn't want to put it up right here because I wanted to see what's happening. Okay, Marcin Tybura up 2, Derek Lewis down 2, Cyril Gahn. I mean, the rankings are going to update again on Tuesday, but okay, so Cyril Gahn obviously won with Aspinall as the champion, Alexander Volkov, Sergey Pavlovich, Curtis Blades, BCA, Jelton Almeida, Sergey Spivak. I think he could fight either Mick Parkin. Well, he's going to be over here. So either Mick Parkin he can fight. Otherwise, if he wants to fight up, I think he can fight Shimil Gaziev, Antadilaya, Marcin Tybura, sorry, Sergey Spivak. Man, these two, I can't believe they're this high up in the rankings. That's insane. But yeah, that would be an interesting fight in my opinion. In terms of how they match up, I'm not too sure yet. I'd have to think about it a little bit more and break it down a little bit more. But let's go into the next fight. Here we have Rafael Fiziev versus Mauricio Rufy. I think Mauricio Rufy looks like the Brazilian version of Conor McGregor, specifically in one of his fights before, I think the Bobby Green fight, if I'm not mistaken. I thought he looked really, really good. However, I thought he was piecing Rafael Fiziev. I did love the what's it called? The weigh-ins and the face-off, the way Rafael said who's the son of and how he's gonna knock him out with his hands, knees, elbows, kicks, and all this stuff. And I mean, Rafael Fiziev had 70 Muay Thai fights. I mean, this guy is pretty well rounded, and in terms of like experience and stuff like that as well. And Rufy, I think that's a big good fight for him. I think he can fight up in the rankings in the next one and get to someone like what's his name? Renzo Moicano. Although he's supposed to be fighting, what's his name? He's supposed to be fighting, what's his face? Ortega. He's supposed to be fighting Ortega. I think he can go ahead and fight, or Rufy can fight with, yeah, Moicano in that main event, that pay-per-view, I think it is, if I'm not mistaken. All right, on to the next one. They also got performance of the night, which is cool as well. Okay, this one. I was really like rooting for Dan Hooker, like genuinely rooting for Dan Hooker, and I thought he was doing pretty well in the beginning. Ironically, Paddy Pimblett was saying something about Paddy Pimblett, so was saying something about his striking and or not his striking, but his wrestling and how he doesn't have any wrestling and or grappling. And I thought he did really well, especially in the beginning of the fight. And then he goes for a takedown. Benoit Saint Denis reverses it, and that's the beginning of the end for him, and takes him out with ground and pound. And even with the ground and pound, I was just like, dude, hip up or do something or like get out or like whatever you can to like get out of that position. But Benoit Saint Denis had him down, had him in a great position. I thought BSD was like, it was interesting to hear what he was saying. I think he wanted Armin Sarukin, and then he said afterwards he wants to fight the winner, the BMF title. In my opinion, I think what he should do is actually fight the loser of the BMF title, let the winner of the BMF title fight Arman Sarukian, and then yeah, so on and so forth, and then obviously whoever wins that fight can fight Justin Gaethje or Ilya Topuria if Ilya Topuria and Justin Gaethje haven't fought already. But yeah, this fight was interesting. I mean, I genuinely thought Dan Hooker was doing really really well, and I didn't think he was gonna lose, especially the way he came out. He looked so cool, especially his hair and the beard and everything put together. And who really wants to lose to a Frenchman, to be honest? Okay, I kind of already shared what I felt about this fight, Alexander Volkanovski versus Diego Lopez. Alexander Volkanovski was saying he did some cool stuff, but I mean, how cool is Alexander Volkanovski? Going into this fight, obviously I wanted him to win, Alexander the Great, and what was interesting to me is that like people were comparing him to Jose Aldo, and for me, I started watching MMA in 2019. I think for me, Alexander Volkanovski is the goat of the featherweight division, and I thought, to be honest, Max beat up the goat, right? Jose Aldo. Jose Aldo basically loses 2 fights to Max Holloway. Max Holloway then retains the belt and defends it up until Alexander Volkanovski comes in. Loses 3 fights, arguably 3 fights. You can say whether you thought they lost or won, whatever. In my opinion, I genuinely mean this. I thought Alex actually won all 3 fights. I thought the second one was very, very close, but I thought Alexander did enough for the second one to actually win it. Outclasses him in the last one, the third one. And the first one, I just couldn't believe what the fuck I was seeing. I was like, Max Holloway, because I knew of Max Holloway before I started watching the UFC, and I was getting into it slowly. And my friends were telling me how incredible he is and all the stuff he's done, and like how he's so like incredible. And I'm like, damn. And then you're seeing this, and you're like watching that fight between Alexander Volkanovski and like Max Holloway in the beginning, and you're watching it like basically like unfold, and you're like, holy crap. And Alexander Volkanovski was doing incredible stuff, like the low kicks and all this stuff. And if anyone of you haven't watched that fight, I highly recommend it. It's super good, and especially the Holloway versus Gaethje fight. That's my personal favorite fight of the entire UFC. Oh, also my other favorite fight, since we're on that topic, is what is it? What's that guy's name? Sorry, Glover Teixeira versus Yuri Prochazka. Oh my god, that fight is so incredible. Because every minute you think the other person's gonna win or lose, and yeah, and then Glover gets rear naked choked by Yuri Prochazka, which you would never freaking imagine, and you're like, what the fuck? And how did it happen so quick? That was crazy. Anyways, yeah. So Alex, won obviously 3 times him, and then Ilya Topuria comes in, knocks out Alex, knocks out Max Holloway. I didn't think Max Holloway should have gone down for that fight, to be honest. I didn't want him to go down to look for that featherweight title belt, but fuck, man, it's crazy. Okay, so my thoughts on the fight. I think Diego Lopez should obviously fight someone in the top 5. I think he should fight the loser of Lerone Murphy versus, if they do that fight, I think he should fight the loser of Lerone Murphy versus Movsar Evloev. And I think, obviously, the winner of that fight is going to fight Alexander Volkanovski, in my opinion. I honestly think they should have gave it. They want to do like this whole thing with the hype stuff with the UFC. They want to do, which I actually love. That's why I got into the whole fight game. But now I'm like more into it. I think they could give us way better fights, even if they're not like hyped up to the casuals. I still think they could give us really good fights if they had, for example, Lerone Murphy or Movsar Evloev in this particular fight against Alexander the Great. So that's just my personal opinion. Yeah, that was my thought process in the fight. I mean, I actually thought Alex just slipped in that whatever round that was that he got the knockdown or whatever from Diego Lopez. I thought he slipped, but being honest, I thought Diego Lopez would have came in like way more aggressive, I thought he would have figured out how to back him up against the cage and just go pump, 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 which is obviously what he's looking for. But I'm just like, he really had a second chance. He got lucky that he got the second chance. I mean, in my opinion, he should have really taken that. But obviously, easier said than done. And I'm not a fighter, so who would I know? But with that being said, that was an interesting fight. I like how Alexander Volkanovski put in a little bit more effort to make it more entertaining, to go into the pocket a little bit more. But then I liked how one of the commentators, I think it was DC who said it during the commentating during one of the rounds. He said, oh, okay, basically Alex can control when the fight's happening, when it's not happening. Whatever he says, it's happening. Like even before the fight, they were showing how Diego Lopez would like follow Alexander Volkanovski and follow his feet and follow his range and follow his like rhythm and stuff. and they were suggesting that he had to create his own rhythm and take it from there, and he didn't really do that. So I did say this in the short that I made earlier today, that I think he kind of looked a little bit immature and a little bit too happy to be there, and it's not a bad thing, obviously, but like in this particular moment, you're getting the second chance. You need to like take this second chance very, very seriously. And in my opinion, if you're training other fighters, if you're a trainer yourself for other fighters, you should understand the footwork and how it's supposed to be done and how to bridge that gap, so to speak. So that was just my personal opinion. Obviously, we do have some fights coming up this weekend as well, so I'll make some videos on that. And then if you guys want me to go into any specific fight afterwards, I mean, for me, I just quickly give it honorable mention, I guess. But the other one was Oban Elliott. I was so excited about him winning, and I was super into that fight, and I really wanted him to win. And then he just gets rear naked choke. And the other fight before that, he just got completely outclassed on the grappling side. So I just think he needs to work on his grappling. And then the whole story with his father like passing away and that whole emotional thing there, I thought it was really cool. And I not cool, but I just wanted him to win because of that. And even on the countdown, I saw him, not the countdown, but I saw him in the embedded crying and stuff. So yeah, I was feeling for him, but man, he just needs to get his grappling back up there. And one more thing, is Alexander Volkanovski like one of the greatest fighters we've ever seen? Apart from like is he on the Mount Rushmore of fighters yet? Or I think we'd have to see. I think they kind of, I think the UFC did him a little bit of a disservice to giving him Diego Lopes for his first title defense after he already won the title from him. In my opinion, it was his second reign. But it would have been sick to really see him fight Lerone Murphy or Movsar Evloev, both undefeated. So let's see what happens next. Hopefully he gets one of those fights. If you haven't liked already, subscribe, like my channel, give me comments, let me know what you think. If you think one of my ideas or suggestions or whatever you want to call it suck, let me know.